Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneur Show. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's BIZZARRO. For anyone who's out there, you can find this show at Justin the Food Entrepreneurs on Instagram and on Facebook. With that being said, I'm going to jump right into it, guys. No monologue to start off with. We're going to jump in with Sage Hauser from Portland, Oregon, with Gray Horse Saloon and Third Coast Dogs. How are you doing today?
Doing great. How are you doing, Justin?
Good. Let's talk about your journey, Sage, from little Sage to big Sage, your background, what led up to being a food entrepreneur. It's your show. I'm going to give you the mic and take as long as you want.
Yeah, I grew up in like a pretty big food. I grew up pretty poor, so food scarcity was kind of a real thing being little. So I always connected food with just like comfort and security. And of course, I think most people have like nostalgia for food. So yeah, we grew up in New York. I was 7 years old. I'm an eighth generation Texan. Both sides of my family helped settle Texas. But my parents were both artists in the 80s and moved to New York to follow their art dreams. And I lived there till I was 7. And we were really broke growing up, but food always fascinated me. Like my first memories are all about food. I remember getting a slice of pizza and just remembering everything about that moment. And I remember getting my first hot dog. We went down to Coney Island and got Nathan's. And so, yeah, these like really core food memories are really important to me. But yeah, we moved to San Antonio when I was 7 years old. And to be closer to my family, my extended family. And yeah, food always played a really big part in my household. I mean, I kind of took care of my brothers and sisters and through cooking for them and my friends. And yeah, I it's a kind of a long, crazy story to get to the food entrepreneur part. But yeah, I grew up in San Antonio in the early 2000s, and it was kind of crazy time. Everyone was on drugs, and at the time, I kind of got into like dealing drugs to survive. And while working at my first real big job was Olive Garden, and the only way to, minimum wage was $7 an hour and no tips. And so I kind of got into drug dealing at the time, and that kind of coincided with a lot of things going on in my life. But yeah, I went from job to job, and I would always go back to food, always go back to the kitchen. It was like a stability point in my life and a very nostalgic point for me. And yeah, lived in Texas all throughout the 2000s and pretty much just kept getting in trouble, and just my life was kind of falling apart. And I got this opportunity in 2015 to get out of Texas and to kind of just reset my whole life. And one of my buddies, I grew up in San Antonio, moved out to Portland and got this really good job. And he called me out of the blue and was like, "Hey, I got this job and a room for you up here, but you just got to get here in like 2 weeks." So I sold everything I had and was like going through a bad breakup, and I'd just gotten off like probation and just ended all these kind of crazy bad things in my life. So I just got on a plane, and I'd never been to Portland or the West Coast before, and just flew here. And
Divine
didn't know
intervention
anybody.
is going on right now, big time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, it was a crazy place to be, Texas, or in the early 2000s for sure. And that's like when I first started getting into food, but I never really got too far into it because the food scene down there is so like corporatized and chain, and it was just like a really big disconnect. And but I came here. I'd never been here before to Portland, and I just started working and networking and kind of got my life together here. I mean, really moving to Portland saved my life in a lot of ways. And yeah, I've been cooking here for 10 years. I've worked at some really nice restaurants here, done some pretty awesome things, and met some really amazing chefs. And, you know, I had started this concept, this hot dog concept back in Texas, but I never really executed it. I would do like little parties with it and things like that, but I never really like put anything into it. But moving here, I slowly started incorporating that into just restaurants that I was working at, like for their lunch service and things like that. But I never really put 100% into it because I was always like busting my ass for some other chef or just kind of putting my dream off on hold because, there's just not enough time in the day. And 2 years ago in 2023, out riding motorcycles out in the gorge, which is like this huge, like natural area outside of Portland. And one of my buddies went off the road and I kind of went off the road too and broke my collarbone and fucked my bike up and messed up my ribs and lost my job at this really nice, like fine dining Italian spot and was bedridden for 3, 4 months. And in that time, I was like, well, I have nothing else to do except kind of work on this idea that I've been thinking about, this hot dog joint thing. And it was the middle of the summer and everyone was eating hot dogs on Instagram. And I was like, this is my sign from the universe. And I sat in my bed with my broken collarbone and ribs and really dialed in the menu, did all the design work and started networking and started the second my collarbone was healed enough that I could like lift shit and put it in my truck. I started doing pop-ups and at the first pop-up, Bill Oakley, who like a food influencer and he wrote and produced like 8 seasons of The Simpsons. He's kind of a like big time player in the like media world and
Yeah.
food world now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
He
like
came to my
this.
first pop-up. Yeah. He came, yeah.
I'm going to pause.
I had
Let me
met,
pause you for a second here. I just
yeah.
want to anchor this for the audience. There's a couple things God does in our lives. God removes things in our lives if we're willing to allow him to remove them to the next state. We talked about once in Texas. Now we're talking again in life. God just removed everything in your way, put you in bed to start a hot dog company. And what's the reward? Guys, the abundance. It's not the money at first. That's not how miracles work. Miracles work in the seeds that are planted. We think it's a miracle later, what appears, but the miracle is actually the seed that was planted from day one. Look at that seed that was planted and the reward. This is good. I like this. Go on, Sage. I just wanted to anchor that for the audience because it's pretty important when we're willing. Our will is willing to do the work or put in the work. Look what happens.
Yeah. I mean, I, it's, it's crazy to think how much people put off because they just don't have time,
Yeah.
or they don't have the energy. And how can you chase your own dream when you're working for someone else's dream, 50, 60 hours a week, you know?
Yeah, I know. 100%. That's why I don't know if I could
So
ever fully do anything else with my life.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to find that opportunity. And then it's hard to find that opportunity. And then there's almost no option when it comes to jumping on an opportunity like that. You just kind of do it or you don't. And yeah, I just knew that this was the time to do this. And also I had nothing else to fucking do. And so I, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, laying in my bed, I mean, I couldn't put my shoes on. I couldn't put my shirt on. And I was like, well, I got nothing to do. The doctor says I can't get back to work for 3 months. So
Yeah. And I'm going to anchor this for the audience as well. When you don't grow up with a lot and food becomes such a valuable part of your world, or you grow up in a very work ethic family, you don't look at boredom as I'm bored. You look at boredom as what am I going to do with my time?
yeah, yeah, it's a loss of productivity.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it's weird to think of your life as in, productive or unproductive because, I mean, in the end, humans weren't always just supposed to just toil, and but you can't find purpose without putting some work in. And yeah, I just knew that this was the time to do this thing. And
do your first pop-up and in comes like, okay, now I know that I'm going the right direction, right? I mean, the guy
yeah,
standing right there.
yeah, he was my first customer at my first pop-up. Yeah.
Oh gosh,
And
this is
yeah,
incredible.
yeah, it was kind of crazy. And I had hit him up too, because I had met him years before at this like food event. And I just randomly hit him up. I was like, hey, I know you love fast food. I know you love hot dogs. We met years ago. You should just come by my pop-up. It's my first one I'm ever doing. And he was the first person. He showed up 5 minutes before I opened, was in line. And he's kind of he's a big deal. I mean, he's on History Channel's The Food That Built America. He wrote, a
Yeah,
bunch of Seinfeld. He wrote, and was the showrunner for The
yeah.
Simpsons for 8 seasons. Like, very big guy in the world, super chill dude. He still comes through all the time. Yeah, it was kind of crazy to like look up and be like, oh, here's Bill Oakley. And I made him some hot dogs. He said it was the best hot dog he had ever had. And that year I won. He does a food award list called the Steamies. And it's like the top 21 things he ate in Portland, because he's from Portland. He lives here. And I won a Steamy for one of the best things he ate. Yeah.
I'm familiar with this, and I love this, and I love that he does it and gives back to the community in the way that he does
Yeah.
with it. It's very important. I think it's this whole thing, the divine way the connections happen, the multiple seeds planted turns into something bigger for you. Okay, let's anchor the hot dogs here real quick for me.
Yeah.
I want to pause just for the audience, because hot dogs isn't just the normal hot dog experience. There's more to it than that. There's the, making it yourself, stuffing it yourself potentially. I don't fully know how you do it to make it yours, but I do know that it is yours. So let's talk about that.
So yeah, I actually don't make the actual hot dogs myself, because I don't. It's a cost analysis value.
Good.
The time and labor of making, like, I wanted to make a hot dog that was like more about the price point and the accessibility, and like how much you would actually get compared to it being like another gourmet, because everything in Portland especially is so geared towards like the certain class. Like, I feel like everyone kind of panders to the upper middle class, or the upper class. Like, they're constantly pandering to this like very select group of people here. And I feel like there weren't enough options for just the middle class and below, for somebody that just wants to come in and get a meal and not spend $20. And I feel like there was no price point and portion point that was like fulfilling the gap. There was either something for $5, which is not enough, it's like a little snack, or $15, which is like a whole meal, and you got to take leftovers. There was no in between those two price points, or those two portion points. And so I was like, well, there's obviously in this market we're missing something here. Like, you should be able to come in and drop less than $10 and get this giant fucking loaded hot dog, walk away completely full, satiated, but also it be really aesthetic. Like, you want to take a picture of it, you want to post about it, you want to talk about it. And also the toppings on these dogs are like pretty bizarre, or at least most people would say they would be, comparatively to just like, classic hot dog toppings. Yeah. So I wanted something that kind of like hit all these points, price, portion, and, of course, aesthetics, nutrition, protein, and also kind of let people like get out of their comfort zone. And I think hot dogs are such a comfort, nostalgic food, that what a better vessel to, take somebody's hand and be like, hey, this thing, this hot dog thing, but have you ever thought about it like this? And have you ever thought about trying this ingredient? Well, now you're going to try it because it's on a hot dog. And those were some big things I wanted to tackle. So as a chef, I'm a really big fan of just using products that are good. Like I'm kind of so over people being like, "Oh, we made our own ketchup." I'm like, I don't give a shit about your handmade ketchup. Why is this entree $17? Is it because of that handmade ketchup? You could have just gave me Heinz. You know what I mean? Like y- there's certain things that not everything needs to be made or handmade. I think, like, and that's that pandering thing. We're like pandering to like, oh, we made our own this. Like, well, you didn't need to do that. You could have just found something. You found a really good product that did it really well, and you could have saved me a couple dollars on the back end. And so I was kind of going into this more economy based instead of like, you know, oh, everything needs to be gourmet. Everything needs to be, and I do make, a lot of the things I do handmade because most all the toppings, the buns, and everything are vegan on these hot dogs because I wanted it to be a cross platform that anybody could come in and get these hot dogs without changing the menu. Like the whole menu can be done vegan or beef. It's just switching out the vegan dog or having the beef dog. So
I love it.
yeah,
I agree. I think it's 100% important in today's world because it is a choice, that very active choice individuals are making. And just so
yeah,
everyone knows, like even in the choosing vegan and having to deal with it as a restaurant, this goes back thousands of years. This is not something that we all of a sudden just start choosing as humans. It's even recorded from biblical era periods and books back then. So it is important that we just stop. If you're fighting it or thinking it's not there, it's not possible, because humans have survived on everything. And so while there's a lot of nutrition and arguments and stuff like that, as a restaurateur, as an entrepreneur, I think the best thing you can do is exactly what we're talking about, is make it so both parties are comfortable. That's a majority of your audience. And then secondly, I want to just talk about this. I'm going to anchor this because I want to go back to building your business also. But in today's world, because of social media and showmanship, and I agree with this, it is important that there be showmanship and nice and whatever you want to do and customize it. Your audience is not going to be the humans that are trying to figure out how to make a living, that are trying to figure out how to feed their family. Okay. And let me just give you an example. I'm just going to give everyone, I believe in high quality food. I believe high quality food can be done at all levels. And I do agree with you. Strategic partnerships for condiments, sauces, things like that are important. When we did all the hospital food and long-term care home and grocery store food, we did all over the country, sourcing all over the world, doing the business that we did. We didn't bake a single piece of bread. We would have
yep,
pre-made dough come in to do cookies fresh because they smelled good in the hospitals.
yep,
But in general, we couldn't figure out all the different temperatures of bread and altitude and chemistry in all of our different facilities, so we couldn't universalize it. So we had to rely on the local suppliers of it to do it. There was a better partnership, and they could do it cheaper than we did, because by the
yep,
time we spent the R&D to figure it out, we were going to pass that on to our hospital customers who are already cheap when it comes to food anyway.
yep.
So one of the things I also like about this is, if we look at the trends going on in the world right now, we are seeing with AI and technology, the wealth gap is widening across the world. Okay, I'm not going to argue whether it's important or it's fair or it's unfair or not. That's not the way I look at things. I look at it as it's just the way it is, but there needs to be a solution for everyone in every area. Okay. And when it comes to hot dogs, burgers, sandwiches, things like that, why they're my favorite foods in particular is because as an entrepreneur, I'm constantly on the go. And when I'm running around, I can have it in my hand. Do I enjoy food because I'm in the food industry, and can I sit down and enjoy it, and I do my videos and stuff for the podcast or whatever? That's the part of Justin everyone sees. But the other part of Justin is the conservative, frugal, even though there'll be people who laugh when I say this, but it's true. I believe that we need to serve the best quality product to whoever for the best price. Okay? that means that I am not the end all be all, period. I should never be. Okay. And for me, it's no different than 12 apostles. I need to surround myself with the balance of the individuals. I'm not calling myself Jesus, just referring to fellowship. What I'm saying is that kind of thing, understanding that, finding people who do things well, the condiment maker, the hot sauce maker, the farmer who does the tomatoes well, or in our case, the farmers that needed to do all the organic eggs just to supply Kaiser Permanente with the amount of eggs they needed every day for organic eggs in their hospitals. We would have to crack them and bag them and make them into omelets and then ship them. But, fresh every day. So the thing is, that's what we're talking about here, guys. There has to be something, some businesses that are always concerned about this. Okay. And something that fast food chains do well is they understand trends, but they also understand how to make them economical for the most part. Okay. But no one right now still, reason McDonald's is still, I know Starbucks, whatever. The difference is Starbucks is a luxury brand charging, for 35-cent cup of coffee, or all the ingredients, maybe 60 cents max, including the cup and the lid. They're charging how much? Obviously there's real estate and stuff like that. But what I want to say to everyone is when you have those margins or Chick-fil-A margins, you're going to have more business. You're serving a different population. You're serving an upper middle class population. Chick-fil-A serves a different population in general, economically. Just so reason when we look at it, what McDonald's does very well is those $2.59 McChicken sandwiches or hot and spicy sandwiches, or buy one, get one, or the Colorado Rockies just won a game. You get a sandwich you get a free sandwich anytime you spend more than $2. Okay. What they're doing is they're making it economical, because what they already know that everyone doesn't see yet is all the concentration on showmanship, flashy food, all of that. All it's done is help raise the price of food even further during inflation, because we made Ford more expensive because we made it more flashy. Okay. Your car doesn't need chrome rims. You put it on to make it look better. It's an expense. It's a choice. It's a want, not a need. Let's put it that way. But when you serve the need population, like we're talking about, and one of the reasons I was looking forward to this is your concentration, one, on the product, hot dogs. Two, it's comfortable. Three, I'm going to say this, and there's a lot of hot dog companies that have come and on the podcast too. Someone needs to go rule the game, and Nathan's didn't do it. Okay, that ship sailed. There's no recovering from it. It's long gone. You can't recover without a total revamping. But what it does mean is there's still room left for someone to build the hot dog industry, fast food, economical there. That's one of the reasons I like what's going on here. Don't reinvent the wheel, put together the pieces. Steve Jobs didn't reinvent the wheel. He just put the pieces together from all the people and pieces of his company that were successful. He's like, oh, this part's successful, this part's not. Okay, we're getting rid of this part. That part's successful, that part's successful. And then he put them all together in an iPhone. It's the same thing, guys. No different. So I want to let you talk, Sage. I just wanted to heavily anchor that for everyone, because I think it's important, and I think your business model is extremely important. Okay, so let's talk about the pop-up. Where do you go from there? How do you get this business off the ground?
So I just kept plugging away at these pop-ups. I mean, it was pretty awesome to have Bill Oakley at, the first one, but, that didn't, having one person, really important person show up doesn't mean that it's like mission success. You got to keep going. And so
it's an affirmation. That's about it.
Yeah. It showed that I was on the right path,
exactly.
And that I just needed to keep going, and that I had to do a lot more work. And so I kept popping up all over the city, different breweries, little tap houses in the parking lot. I mean, and I was working a full-time job. I was a chef at this other fine dining spot while I was doing the pop-up. So yeah, I was working, 60, 65 hours a week, which is pretty normal for me. It has been pretty normal for me my whole life. And I don't think people really realize how much work goes into food. I think people think, you kind of touched on it earlier, that food is just like, going out to eat is like a right. It's not, it's a privilege. You know, the service industry is one of the few industries that anybody off the street can come into your business, sight unseen, no reservation, come in, get served food, get cleaned up after, get taken care of. It's one of the few industries that treats people in this whole class like they're kings or queens. My job is to make you forget. Really, my job is to make you forget that you're a proletariat or a slave just like me. And for the hour that you're in my restaurant or in my space, I'm here to take care of you and make you forget that you're just in the same position I am. And it's a privilege, to go out and to be served and to be taken care of, because that's not how the world works. If we were all in the world in the woods, and we didn't have capitalism and we didn't have a food service industry, you'd be catching your own food. You'd be chopping wood all day. You'd be carrying water to your camp. There would be no stop. And yeah, I just kept going.
The Third Coast Dogs like really starts building out of just, you get this affirmation. You're like, okay, now I need to run with it. It's provided you the energy.
Yeah.
And this is where my emphasis for the audience, like anything that you've built from the ground up is going to have momentum. We just talked about, I did this about ice cream in Denver. You slinging ice cream in parking lots during COVID because no one could go indoors, and it turned into Right Cream, which is now burgers and ice cream and a brick and mortar. We're talking similar idea here. So let's talk about, when do you move forward with this? Where does this go? How do you get into a brick and mortar? How do you build this into more? Because you, by all intents and purposes, I think it's hard for anyone to fathom that a pop-up turns into a brick and mortar or a restaurant or a business quickly, but it can. And I just wanted you to walk everyone through it.
Yeah, it actually kind of moved at like hyper speed. With getting that SEMI award, I got, some accolades, and, I had already been opening restaurants and stuff here. So I kind of already had a good, just background with the media and stuff. So yeah, I just kept plugging away at these pop-ups. I would do one every weekend on top of my regular job, kept networking at every pop-up. I would find somebody else to go do a pop-up at. And it was just a lot of grinding. And, some days there would be nobody there. And then some days I would sell out an hour. So, as a chef, you have to be prepared for everything, but also expect nothing. And, and to accept both things with a grain of salt. And I did this pop up for months, and it was just me, no help. I did everything by myself and to start the business. So I was like, well, I can do everything while running it too. And my buddies, the place I did my first pop up at was at this motorcycle shop that my buddies ran. And they had a little bar in there, and it's a really small bar, and it's like in the garage, and their lease was ending on the space, and they really weren't making money off the bar. So they asked me, they're like, hey, you did your first pop-ups here. People really have been coming to the bar. Like our sales of the bar was going up whenever you sell these hot dogs here. And they were like, we really want to just step away from the bar business and focus on the motorcycles. Do you want to take over the bar? And they just pretty much approached me like that. They're like, hey, if you want to rent the bar from us while our lease is ending. And I was like, I've had bar experience, but I've never owned a bar. I'm primarily a chef, a lot of back of house experience, but they're offering me a really good deal in this space. And they're like, hey, you could keep this hot dog thing going, and you could just do it here, and you'd have a roof over your head and electricity and a low boy fridge and, all the conveniences of being inside. And I was like, yeah, fuck it. I'll take it over. So I left my other main job and just kind of jumped at this opportunity. and applied for all the permitting. I had to rebrand it, so I called it Gray Horse. And I really wanted to keep the like pop up feeling, like that pop up inspiration there. So I didn't I treated the hot dogs as a permanent pop up in the bar. And whenever you come into the bar, and a lot of people are like, wait, why is the bar called Gray Horse and there's Third Coast hot dogs? I was like, well, in the beginning, I didn't know how long this bar was going to last because their lease was ending. And I really wanted to have that pop up feel. Like, I never wanted to get rid of that kind of entrepreneurial, just like, fuck it attitude. Like, hey, I'm just going to do this, you know? And so I took over the bar. I started plugging the hot dogs in there, expanded my menu, started making merch, started expanding the brand a lot more because I had a lot more time on my hands at this space. And in the beginning, it was rough. I mean, the first couple months, like even though I had these accolades, I opened my bar in the middle of winter. In the winter here, yeah, in the winter here in Portland, it's extremely slow. It's rainy and cold and
Yeah.
dark. And so the first couple months were, I had people coming in based off the Bill Oakley stuff, off the steamies. But slowly over time, I just started getting write ups from Eater magazine, from all the newspapers, from, people would come in and get these hot dogs and they're pretty blown away by them because the whole menu is kind of just like a roadmap of Texas. And I call it Texas style hot dogs, and people ask me every day. They're like, "Well, what makes it Texan?" And I was like, "Well, I'm from Texas, so it's whatever I want." But really, it's it just goes to show the melting pot that Texas is, and nobody really talks about. And yeah, I just kept plugging away, and yeah, I went from working, 60 hours split between my old chef job and this pop up to just working 65 hours at this bar. And yeah, during the spring and summer of last year, it really started blowing up. It went from this little thing that have a couple people pop in to the bar was full all the time. The outside was full. And yeah, I really wanted to keep that pop up spirit and kind of keep that in the forefront of everyone's minds. Like, you could start something small and keep it small. It doesn't need to be this giant thing always. And I think the more creative control you have over your product and the more time you spend with it, the better the product's going to be. And the more people kind of vibe off of, the experience of coming in and seeing you. And I think that really translates through the food. And yeah, so pretty much I ran this bar and the hot dog joint by myself for over a year. And I mean, I would make all the drinks. I would make all the food. I'd be there, 14 to 16 hours a day and just doing everything by myself. And on the weekends, I was open from noon to midnight. So it'd be 12 hours of service, like no bathroom breaks, no food breaks. If I had an HR person, I would have sued myself, like, yeah, I mean, this continual grind. And I think a lot of people think it's just like, people only see the front end of what you're doing. They don't see all the other shit you got to do. They don't see you doing all the shopping. They don't see you cleaning up and doing inventory or restocking. They don't see all the little things. And they just see you while you're on your stage, during service.
Yeah.
And
It's 100% true. It's so true. So true. It's unbelievable. But yes, I agree. They see the 5% of the effort, it feels like some of the time.
Yeah, that they see the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
And you get judged off that tip, that you get judged off that very small amount of time, really comparatively to the big grand scheme of all the work you've done. They judge you and they'll write a review about it and try to hurt your business, or either hurt your business or try to hurt your feelings personally. Like, people write some fucked up shit. And
people
I'm
get
like,
me. It's funny. I'll talk about this. I'm doing a consulting project right now, and the we'll call it the guest. We'll call it the person. They named every avenue they were going to write a bad review about everything if we didn't correct a certain situation. It was very interesting, but it's true. The people, if they don't get exactly what they want, when they want it, how they want it, sometimes you have no way of providing it. There's just no possible
Yeah.
way. There, you
Yep.
just, it's impossible. I'm sorry, I just do not. And even with honesty, it doesn't go very well. But yeah, I agree with
Nope.
you. It becomes a hammer by which someone wants to use against you
Yeah.
sometimes.
And it's
So,
like, dude, I'm just trying to feed you. I'm just trying to
yeah,
break bread. I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and,
yeah. I know what you
and
mean.
it's sad that people think, and that goes back to what I said earlier, everyone thinks it's their right. It's not your right. It's a privilege. And it's a privilege to be taken care of. And, I worked all throughout COVID. I never stopped working. And, I watched the whole world shut down and they still said I had to go to work. And, they said, oh, don't be within 6 feet of somebody. But then they put me in a room with 10 other people and there wasn't even 6 feet in the whole fucking room. And I can't count how many times I got COVID from work and got sick and still had to show up. And I can't count how many times I watched friends get sick and COVID and they called us essential workers, but they didn't provide us essential money. They called us the backbone of society, but we didn't get a raise. We just got sick. And,
Oh, yeah, I agree with
and,
you.
and I think it's so funny. We
Same in
went
the
from this
hospital
about,
food business. They just treat like shit and then try to take our trucks to provide medicine to everyone. Well, that's great that you want to provide medicine to everyone. How am I going to feed the patients in the hospitals? They're going to, like, what's going to happen to them? Like,
yeah,
it's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. And you're
yeah,
right. No, only making things harder for everyone. That's what happened. It wasn't these as essential workers that made everything harder and then try to make everything cheaper on top of it for us.
yep, yep. And it's crazy that, they called us essential workers
Yeah.
but then, once COVID is over, it's right back to hating on us or
Yeah.
treating us like shit or writing bad reviews about us or trying to hurt our businesses
Yeah.
or just hurt us. And it's like, dude, 3 years ago, we were your heroes,
Yeah. Exactly.
and we were the only thing that gave you a semblance of society when the whole world was shutting down. And now that it's all back to normal, you can go back to treating us like shit. No, that's not how it's going to go.
Yeah.
And so I think society, I mean, we owe a huge debt to our essential workers. And that means the healthcare workers, that means the service industry workers,
Yeah.
that means blue collar people that still had to go to work while the rest of the world sat in their ass and collected a check. And yeah, we owe a debt to these people. And if people want to go back to that, we can go right back to it. And let's see how far society will get along without the services we provide. And yeah, I think people really need to wake the fuck up and realize this is not your right. This is your privilege. And you should be fucking grateful and show a little gratitude to the people that do the jobs that you don't want to do so you can live a life that everybody else wants. And I think it's really important that that's the spotlight. And yeah, I mean, I this job is not an easy job. I think a lot of like we said, you only see what you want to see. Everyone only sees the things you show them, and how much distance you've traveled on paper, but they don't see all the things you do behind it and how much work goes into it. And
Yeah.
yeah, I ran this bar and this hot dog joint by myself for a year and a little bit over a year. And then, yeah, in March, this food influencer came in and shot a video. And I've had a lot of food influencers come in and shoot videos, and I've had a lot of articles written about the space. And so I thought it was going to be just like every other article. I was like, yeah, I'll get a cool little push of people. I'll network some more. I'll gain some new customers, some new followers, and it'll be awesome. But this guy who came in, I guess he had a really strong following on the internet, and he shot this really great little video about the space and kind of just highlighted what I was doing there. And the video dropped and it went absolutely viral. I mean, the video came out, and within 10 minutes of the video going on the internet, I had a line down to the street. And that didn't end for almost 2 months. There was a line down the block. People were waiting 3-4 hours for a hot dog.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, it went from, I mean, everything up to that point, I was doing pretty well. Like, I was doing really good considering, most businesses don't even make money the first couple years. Most businesses don't get right. I mean, I know chefs that work their whole lives and they don't get a single write up. They never see their name in a publication. They never get to see any kind of fruit of their labor. And, I had already achieved a lot of that. And I was sitting pretty good. I felt great. Like, my business was doing great. I didn't necessarily need this video to get dropped in, but when it did, it really did change my life forever. It changed the business forever. It was no longer, it was like this cool little secret that all of a sudden the whole city knew about. And then I had my friends in Texas being like, dude, your video just went viral. It popped up on my feed. Yeah, the video got viewed a couple million times on TikTok and Instagram. It went from, having my friends and having like a pretty steady business to literal line down the street, people standing in the rain for hours waiting for a hot dog. It went from this chill little spot to a spot you could even get a seat at, and I literally had, that show, The Bear. I literally had a bear moment where it was like I looked up and saw a line that never ended, and it stayed like that for almost 2 months. And it was, yeah.
It's quite an experience. I'm like, one, the surrealness of what just happened. It's I just can't. All of a sudden, everyone's showing up. Let's talk about that day in particular. You're obviously, I would guess, sold out, right? Because I don't know that all of a sudden we're prepared for something like this. No one is.
No.
And then on top of it, there is a cash flow thing that needs to go on where all of a sudden, if you're having more customers, you need to put more money into the business because we're in a tangible business, specifically food, but a lot of other things as well to support it. I think this is what you're anchoring, which is the employee. So let's anchor this, but I want to first anchor these first couple of days with the thing. I mean, at first you're probably like, okay, it was just today. Okay, maybe it's another day. It'll fade off, but now you're talking 2 months, right? So let's talk about how you manage this and the importance. Listen, for everyone in the audience, the reason I'm asking this question is very specific. It's because if there wasn't the preparation and the year of doing it all himself, I don't know that when he blew up like this, it would have been handled in the same way with the same success. But I just want to anchor it for everyone. I don't have I don't know for sure, but I do know there was a preparation for the opportunity that happened. So go on, Sage.
That's a really good point. I mean, without me doing everything by myself for a year and working those 60 hours a week nonstop anyway, I would not have been prepared. That was like setting up the template for this thing. And then all of a sudden the real work showed up, and it was really bewildering for me to see. I mean, as a chef, like, I can tell you whenever I cook a meal that this thing's going to be great. I can't imply that waiting 4 hours in the rain for it is going to be as good. You know what I mean? Like, once you attach these other things to this product, it implies that is also worth it. And so it was really hard for me to wrap my head around and to look up at this line that seemingly never ended, and I was making drinks, making hot dogs, bussing tables, cleaning, I literally, I was very on the verge of having like a mental breakdown. And it really was like, I hate to use that analogy of the bear, but it really was that moment of like, what? Like, everyone in the world now wants this thing that nobody knew about. And it was really bewildering for me and kind of a shock to me that, why would you wait in line in the pouring down rain 4 hours for a hot dog? I can't tell you it's worth it. That I can tell you that the product speaks for itself, but I cannot physically say that it's worth that time, and it was everything else I had already done leading up to that point, which is what saved me. That is what kept me going every day. And yeah, like you said, like, it's just today. Everyone will be over that. There's no like timelines on virality, and what people want to go chase. And I was like, yeah, this will last a week. It lasted 2 months, and it's still like that now, except it's not like a dedicated line, where people just want to stand in it all day. People come in pretty big groups. Like it's still just as busy, just paced way better. And when that video dropped, it just went crazy. Like the space is very unique. It's in a motorcycle garage. So literally when you're in there getting food, there's people back there fucking building choppers. There's dudes back there welding or blasting
I
music.
love
And
it. I love it.
yeah, it's a really cool experience. And we have so many bikes in the back. It's like a little museum. It's like a living museum, and the whole space is really cool. We're on this corner. We're in this industrial district. We have no neighbors. We're the only spot down there. Everything else is just warehouses. And so we kind of have free reign of the block, and people roll up on their cool choppers, on their bikes. They show up with their lifted trucks and their lowriders. And so it's kind of this last grimy bastion of Portland. And everyone has this vision of Portland of like a Portlandia episode. And yeah, there are places in town that are like that, There,
That's hilarious.
there,
I do agree
there
with
really
you.
are the Fred, yeah, there really are the Fred Armisons and Carrie Brownsteins out there.
Yeah.
There are these really, very Portlandia places, but the rest of Portland, it does not look like that. Portland's a fucking grimy ass blue collar city, and nobody really talks about it. And
Yeah.
I think that's kind
Very
of
blue collar.
It is a very blue. I mean, it's
It would
named
be
after
like
the port.
Pittsburgh of the West or
Yeah.
maybe even Cleveland in some ways.
Yeah. Seriously, yeah. And nobody really thinks about that. I mean, the Columbia River is the third largest river in the country. It runs right next to us, and so we have a lot of blue collar guys here, and nobody was really like building a bridge between like all the classes here. And I think that's why this business works, because everybody can find something here. Like my customer, I can find a more diverse customer base. And I think a lot has to do with how I plan the menu. Like I really wanted the menu I wanted everyone to access my base product, and without it being separated or segregated. I wanted it to be where, you could come in and get anything off the menu. It doesn't matter your dietary restrictions. You could still experience the same thing as somebody who's not the same dietary restriction or whatever. And yeah, my following is very diverse. I have a lot of, blue collar people, but then, I have like, I can't count how many nights I have like millionaires come in with their wives, and they went to like one of the really nice fine dining restaurants in the city. And then afterwards, their wife is like, I really want to go get hot dogs at that motorcycle bar, and they'll come in their nice like dress and suits and stuff. And that's kind of the beauty of the space, I think, is that there is no one person I'm gearing this towards. And it doesn't matter who you are, you're going to get the same experience from me. And that's the beauty of it, is that anybody can find something here. And the people that my regulars, like everyone knows each other's names. It's funny when people roll up, people are walking out with their favorite beer already, giving them hugs. And it's kind of like this weird, almost like Cheers moment. Like literally everyone knows each other's names, and you want to be in this group. You want to be friends with everybody. And I think that was missing from a lot of the places here. And that's really what I wanted to project here, was that feeling of just like community and family, but with also like that little like 2% of danger. Like you don't know who's going to roll up. You don't know what's going to happen. And that's what keeps it fun. It's never a boring moment. And I think that's what people really are like picking up when they come here and come to the bar and come get hot dogs, is that It's just this open experience that you can get whatever you want out of it. And I think that's really important for us to have these days. And, as the world gets like more and more segregated and darker and just more just hopeless, I think having a place that kind of just negates all that is really important, you know?
And this goes back to the hot dog. Number one is it's a comfort food. The issue is that someone just hasn't delivered it well in a way that you're delivering it, I believe. I mean, there's a few others out there that obviously anyone knows from the podcast, but the industry is needing to be built here. That's why part of the reason I have them on the show is because no different than burgers, how many Burger King, Wendy's, McDonald's, those were just the beginners. Now we have how many others, Whataburger, Carl Jr.'s, In-N-Out Burger, all also entering the game on a massive scale. So industries can be built within segues. Fried chicken alone, then now enter hot chicken or Nashville chicken or whatever. And those segues have even more, or just the chicken sandwich. Okay. The problem with the chicken sandwich business that everyone's getting into that I don't like is that we've made the prices astronomical. The sandwich is like $20 for a chicken sandwich. Yep. And so, like, it's just so sad. Yeah, it's just so sad. These are meant to be comfort foods. And I know everyone's driving up price because everyone's expand and franchise and do whatever quickly. Just the reality is it's not a long-term strategy because it needs to be economic proof for you and for the consumer. We forget that as a business. So no matter how good the food is, how fine your dining is, know your customer base, know what does economic hardship look like to them, and then you're going to have to adjust to it and make a menu appropriately. Why does the person want to go have a hot dog afterwards? Because it's a comfortable food and it's good. And hey, you go out, you do something nice and fine and whatever, and you get an experience, but nothing still as comfortable as the emotional experience of something you enjoy, maybe rooted in your childhood. There's a reason Raising Cane's and the chicken tender is all he serves, really, and everyone loves it. Why? Because in the 80s, when McDonald's introduced the chicken McNugget, the chicken tenders also came. And the rest is history. Now, every kid that grew up in the 80s and 90s loves chicken tenders, probably fed their kids chicken tenders. And hey, guess who's there on a global scale? And guess what's also important? I wish their pricing was a little bit lower, but it is economical. You do get a lot of food for your price. You can get giant things of tea in gallons. And so while they don't do a lot, they serve a small amount, but they make it price worthy. Okay. It obviously, the people line up. That's important, okay? So I think we're talking about the same with hot dog here. Let's talk about the menu itself. Let's talk about the options for the hot dogs, the toppings, because I want to anchor that because it's part of taking something that's no different than lobster, but making it your own in whatever way possible. It's something someone else created, even willingness to take the other things everyone's created to create one thing. But let's talk about the toppings, the ingredients, your best sellers, things like that.
So yeah, the toppings are I call the dogs Texas style. So they really are supposed to represent kind of the unspoken melting pot that is Texas. I think everyone's got this view of what Texas is. Like, oh, like Tex-Mex, and yeah, that's a huge part of it. But yeah, they don't. You don't really think about. There's a difference between Tex-Mex and actual Mexican food. There's a difference between, like all the different little melting pots in each little city in Texas. And I don't think people really realize how much Asian influence is there too. And, how much your old school European influence is there. Like, one of the biggest things we eat in Texas is kolaches, and that's from the Czech Republic. And, that and breakfast tacos are like our number one, breakfast items. You couldn't be, further different, from a kolache to a breakfast taco, but they're all in the same vein of what Texas is. So the hot dogs are all named after different Texas cities. And so the menu is supposed to be kind of a little roadmap of Texas. Each hot dog and the name kind of represents a place where I ate a hot dog that was very similar, or that place inspired me to create the hot dog like that. I would say the number one seller I have is the El Paso. So it's green salsa, cilantro, ranch, pickled peppers, and bacon bits. I don't know why that one is the most popular. I think it might be the ranch. I don't know. I think a lot of people see ranch and they're like, yeah, let's get it.
Also invented in
And
the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Another nostalgia point,
Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah.
I really, really, that is my main motivator through the menu is nostalgia, of course, because hot dogs too. But the toppings are all supposed to be nostalgia based for me. Yeah, people love the El Paso. It's really light, but you get this. It's like mildly spicy, but really savory, a little creamy. You get and the cilantro. Like I love cilantro on everything. Cilantro on a hot dog is fucking amazing. I couldn't tell you why it's so good,
I
but
agree
it's
with
like
you.
the cilantro is so
Yeah,
good.
same. And on my Italian sausage too, no one would think, but yes, on my sausages too, I use cilantro. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm also, I mean, cilantro is used in every great cuisine, you
Yeah,
know,
that's
and
true.
so,
It's true.
and then I remember I got into an argument with the chef. He's like, "Well, it's not used in French cuisine." Well, I was like, "Well, that's not my favorite cuisine, so you're good. You can have that."
Yeah, keep that one.
Yeah, I have some really weird ones on there. The Christie it's pineapple slaw, cilantro again, pink sauce, which is like a fry sauce. But yeah, all the sauces are vegan. And potato chips. That one is the most popular hot dog in Colombia. If you go to Colombia, everyone's eating these pineapple hot dogs. They love pineapple hot dogs. Except for they don't put cilantro on it down there. They put like a pickled quail egg, which I was like, I don't think Americans would get into that. So I was like, I'll just put cilantro on it.
Yeah, we're not there yet. Although I hope we do
we're
get
not
more into eating quail and diversifying off chickens only. But yes, there is that. Yeah.
But I have one, the San Anto, which is my personal favorite. It's named after my hometown, San Antonio. That one has black mole, pickled onions, like a white crema sauce that you would put like on enchiladas. And then it has crushed up Takis chips all over it. And yeah, that one is supposed to be all my like favorite flavors of growing up. When we moved to San Antonio when I was 7, I got obsessed with mole. I had never had mole before, and I just thought it was just one of the best flavors I've ever had. And so I remember me and my buddies were riding BMX in the drainage ditches and spray painting and stuff, and we'd like go and camp out and we'd make hot dogs in the ditch. And I remember I brought a deli container full of mole, and I was like, "Hey, we're putting mole on these hot dogs," and they turned out to be really good. So that was one of my first memories unlocked in San Antonio, and I was like, "Well, I'm making this hot dog about it." Yeah, they're all supposed to be based around things that happen in that city or things that remind me of it. The Bay City is cream cheese, fried wontons, green onion, and sweet chili sauce. That one's supposed to taste like a crab rangoon, which is one of my favorite foods ever. And that one's based off of Bay City, Texas, which is close to Houston, really big Asian population. I remember getting crab rangoons there and being like, I can make this into a hot dog. Yeah,
who thinks of that? I love it though. It's like I think of things like that, but not many people would say that, right? But it's possible. You've proven it.
Yeah. They're really off the base, wild concoctions. Like for all my specials, like so, there's 13 hot dogs on the menu permanently.
Yeah. You can go through all of them. I'd love it.
And you can go through all of them, and and they can all be done vegan or beef.
Nice.
Which is the biggest thing. Like I have people come in, big groups. They're like, "Oh, half of us are vegan, half of us are beef. Like, which one's going to get?" I'm like, "You can do the whole menu." And people come up and they like shake my hand. They're like, "Dude, thank you so much for like creating a cross platform that I could have the same thing that my partner's having." You know, I'm not being relegated to this like little side menu. It's like, "Oh, you eat this? Oh, this is your options over here."
Yeah.
You know, and I think that really speaks to people that, and I mean, I have some people come up to me and ask me, they're like, "Well, why does no one else doing something like this?" And I'm like, "I don't know. and I hope no one else figures it out.
Yeah.
not, not, not really. I hope this catches on, and I hope chefs and business people start looking at menus in a more broad
Agreed.
way. But for my own selfish needs right now, yeah, like if I'm trailblazing this, yeah, it's awesome, and I'll gladly take it. And yeah, I think it's really important that everyone can access your product. And yeah, on top of the 13 regular, I have a couple on there that are like kind of classic that are like I put my own spin on, uh, like the Plano dog, which is like green relish, fresh shallot, fried onion, and yellow mustard. It's pretty much as close as you're gonna get to like a old
Sounds
school, like,
delicious.
yeah. But with the fried onion on there and the fresh shallot instead of like regular onion, it really changes everything, and it's the most classic dog you're gonna get on the menu. But yeah, it still has my little twist on it. But yeah, like on the menu, you can go from pretty classic to fucking very wild. You've never heard of a hot dog like this. But outside of those 13 choices, I do a special every day. And sometimes I'll do like two or three and just load up on specials. And really think it's important to constantly be pushing a new product, to constantly be having fun with it. I mean, that's the whole point of being a chef anybody can look at a recipe and create food. A chef is somebody that is conceptualizing and then executing that concept and doing it, on the fly, on the go with whatever their cards are dealt with. And so it's really important for me to always have a special. And yeah, it's a lot more extra work for me, but that's like the whole point of this, is to be constantly pushing the boundaries. And I can't count how many regular customers come back 2-3 times a week just because I do so many specials. I have somebody that comes in on a Thursday, and then I'll switch the special up. And then all of a sudden I see him on Friday the next day, and they're like, dude, I saw you post this thing, and I literally rushed down here. And it's kind of crazy with social media. I will literally post something, and within 5 minutes, people are out of breath in line. They're like, I ran down here because I didn't want you to sell out. And people are very fervent and loyal. And if you allow them to feel connected to your business, people will do whatever. And it's really awesome feeling to, you know, put something up and people show up. And I I can't keep my every time I do a special, they sell out. But yeah, I mean, literally I'll post something and within 5 minutes, people are like, I saw that. I rushed out, got in my car and drove down here, and I want to be the first person to get it. And the specials are all based around things that I want to eat for that week. And so during the winter, I kind of do like all my favorite soups as hot dogs. Like I did a broccoli cheddar hot dog. I did like a Tom Kha hot dog. I did like I'm constantly like taking things that I want to eat, and I'm like, how can I make this into a hot dog? And in the summer, I'm like picking my favorite salads or sandwiches and turning them into hot dogs. Like right last week, I did like the Olive Garden salad as a hot dog. I'll do a Big Mac hot dog. I did a Reuben hot dog. Pretty much just like I'll watch something on TV, or I'll be watching like No Reservations with Bourdain, and he'll go out, eat something, and I'm like, ooh, that makes me hungry for that. And I'm like, well, I'm going to force everybody in the city to eat that as a hot dog this week. And that's kind of like my MO, is to constantly like pushing boundaries of what a hot dog is, and kind of opening people's minds to like where food can go and what it really means to you. Like, how much nostalgia can you keep, but also create your own nostalgia, you know? But I feel like that's the most important part, is that the menu is ever expanding, and then that the regular menu is very varied enough that, you can't even get bored with the regular menu either, you know?
Yeah, and as an entrepreneur, chef, whatever, as anyone in the industry, I think it's important that we stay creative. We keep creating things. We don't always know what the next star of our show is going to be. And you may have a hot dog that pops off on a whole new level that launches global expansion. You don't know. And that's why as entrepreneurs, we can't get so stuck in what has already made us successful. That's now our foundation. It's not a successful producing point. That victory is up. The trophy's on the wall. We're reaping the rewards, and hopefully had the structure that we talked about that's built because we put in the elbow grease. But I think the other part is the creativity is so important. Once things start to grow, that's staying. What I just talked about it on another podcast we did. We used to say this thing at Food Service Partners: development to stay relevant. And it has to in food. Even in the hospitals, we had to stay up with trends or people weren't going to eat the food. If we served what everyone else was serving, the same crap that everyone, when we had an Asian population in San Francisco going to the hospital, they're getting sicker in the hospital because they're not eating the food because they're like, what is this meat patty on my plate with this gray creamy thing? No one, they don't want that. That's not comfortable to them. And even if they know what it is, it's not something that's going to help them heal because they don't find comfort in it from an energy level. So this is part of what we're talking about. That's why I think this is also important. The willingness to explore the world. Okay. Anyone else that's been in the podcast also, or Gorilla Brave, the first three pillars of leadership I talk about are education, exposure, and experience. Education, go learn, read, use YouTube, Anthony Bourdain on TV, whatever you need to do to get educated on what you want to do or expand yourself, constantly be doing it. It's not only in a formal environment. The second one is go experience whatever it is that you're doing. So in this case, if you want to be a chef or you're going to be in food, you have to go experience chefhood. Okay, for lack of a better term. What does that fellowship look like? What does it mean? Because it is the rest of your life potentially. Okay, exposure to the world around us. Okay, and this is what I'm talking about. This is a perfect execution of it. It is the sponge. It is what I don't know, always, not what I already know. What I already know is a foundation for whatever I don't know. And what I don't know is this type of food or this type of salad or this type of thing for my audience. So I may not know it, but I'm going to turn it into a hot dog. If I do know it, I don't know how I'm going to do it necessarily. But what it does is that then it also exposes the people around us to it. So there's education here through the product. There's an experience. We're getting it. It's fun for the audience. Also, it's fun for the entrepreneur. And then most importantly, it's this whole level of exposure to the world, getting to try something different. Like I just said, there are things that haven't been invented to the 80s. Sushi didn't really come to the United States until the 2000s. Okay. On a massive level where everyone's had it. Okay. So that's important. It's the same for the food. So everyone's like, oh, it's already done or someone's already invented. No, it just means that there's a base. Okay. There's Ethiopian fried chicken. There's, Nashville hot chicken. There's KFC, Kentucky fried style hot chicken. There's Popeyes, Louisiana style hot chicken. All three of those are a different style in the same category, potentially. All of them have developed industries in and of themselves. So I just want to emphasize that. Let's talk about, this will be my last question for you. What keeps you going to work 65 hours, to run a business, to do whatever? There's probably plenty of times, plenty of losses, plenty of frustrations, throwing away food at times. What is it that has kept you going?
I guess just pure necessity. And I think a lot of it is that I don't know any other way. And there's a lot of frustrating times. It's a lot of lonely time too. And like I said, people only see what you want to show them, but they don't see me at 3 a.m. by myself cleaning up, and they don't see me doing all the, menial, unglorious work to get there. And I guess, what keeps me going is I don't really have a choice. I don't have anything else to fall back on. And I think this is my calling as a person. I've always loved food. I've always loved feeding people. I've always loved educating people about food. And I think that what brings me the most happiness at the shop is people will come in and be like, I've never had mole, much less mole on a hot dog, but I'm going to try it today.
I know I
And to
love
see their
mole.
eyes.
You,
Yeah.
me, and both, man. I don't know what it is
Yeah.
about it. I can't stop thinking about it. I love it on my hamburgers too, by the
Yeah.
way.
Dude,
So.
it's such a, for it being such a like niche, like flavor, it's so expandable. And I mean, I think it's up there with like, the French mother sauces. Like, I think it's just as important as well, and
That I
nobody
agree
really
with
talks about it.
100%, actually. I do. I agree with that. Like, I think, and the mother sauces idea is very important in the world. And I do think that there are plenty of ethnic, cultural, different foods that resemble it. But anyway, go on. I love this. You were talking
Yeah.
about the mole. I got you off track.
No, yeah, yeah. I just love that I get the opportunity to kind of expand people's minds and to see their faces when they try something. That is like I mean, that's really what keeps me going, I think, in the end. And, I've been a chef, so I run the front of house. When you walk in, you talk to me and I'm literally right there. I got the grill right there. We're chatting. I'm making the hot dogs while I'm taking your order. And then, within 6 minutes, I got it out to you. And the way I run the business is very chef driven. I don't do anything on the side. So it's either you pick it or you don't. Like I kind of am, I want people to get away from this kind of like childlike, eating habits that Americans have forced themselves to. Like, oh, can I get this on the side so I can? No, like you either get it or you don't. You're an adult. You don't need to. Why do I need to provide you something like a side option? Like you just need to either jump in or don't get it at all. And so I also try to be
I,
a zero.
yeah, I love
I'm
it. Yeah.
yeah, no, and a lot of people are like kind of
This
taken
isn't a
aback.
construction project. This is
Yeah,
color inside the lines with the numbers.
yeah, no, and people were taken aback sometimes when they're like, "Can I get this on the side?" And I straight up look at them in the eyes and say no. And they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "No, I don't do anything. I don't even have the little plastic ramekins. Like, I try to be a zero waste restaurant. I try to I literally don't throw anything away. I have the smallest, like literally at the end of my shift, I have the smallest bag of trash. I have no dishes. Like I'm super minimalist. Like I try to really like contribute to the world with my food, not my waste. And yeah, people are taken aback when I say no. And people trying to come in and customize their own hot dogs. I'm like, no, dude, I didn't spend months conceptualizing this menu for you to just create your own. And people are kind of taken aback from that because as a chef, they say the customer is always right. Well, that's the front of house standpoint, but as a chef, like, no, that's not like they're not always right. I'm the one doing this food. You're here for the food. So I'm the one that's right. And you can kind of take it or leave it. And my the way I've kind of laid down the law with it has forced a lot of people to jump out of their comfort zones and to like not just put their little toe in the water, they just jump right in. And then they come right back up to the counter and they get the hot dog they didn't think they were ever gonna like, they get another one. And they'll come up and tell me, dude, this thing changed my life. I've had multiple people say this hot dog changed my life, or it changed my view of food, or it changed my perspective on just so many things. And I think that's really what keeps me going every day is to see people's minds change. And not only are they getting this like compact but super nutritious, big portion, decent price, fast speed. Not only are you getting all the and it's aesthetic, like all day people are just taking photos of the hot dogs because they are really gorgeous. They're little pieces of art. And I have people that are like, it's hard to eat this hot dog because it's so fucking pretty. And for you to hit for a product to hit all these marks, you know, and to change your mind, that is what I'm going for. That is my ultimate goal. If I can hit, if I can make you full, give you nutrients, also give you something aesthetic to look at, also make you feel good about it, and also maybe change your mind about an ingredient or how you view a certain food or how you view hot dogs in general, that's all worth it to me. That makes it completely worth it to me. The specials, when people come in, they're like, dude, I never would have thought of having a Reuben hot dog or having a Caesar salad hot dog or whatever the hell I'm doing that week. For people to come up and be like, dude, that changed my life, that makes it all worth it. That makes the 60 hours, 65 hours worth it. If I can push things forward and not take us back, then this was all for naught. You know, this was worth it to me. And it makes me happy to constantly pushing boundaries and to make people look at the world a little different, because that's the only way we're going to change things. And if that means one hot dog at a time, then that means one hot dog at a time. But I think in the long run, people, I, I I think other business people will start looking at the market this way and looking at their products this way. And I hope together as an industry, we can move forward and just make things more accessible, and not only more accessible, but more experimental. And yeah, the boundaries need to be constantly pushed or it's boring, you know, and nobody wants something that's boring. And I see the immediate reactions of things when I post something. People like, wow, this is blowing my mind. I'll be there in 5 minutes. And to get that kind of engagement, that it means the world to me. It really does. And I think that's what keeps it going. And other than the fact that I have to keep paying my bills and, like people said, open a restaurant, it'll be fun. Yeah, it's fun. It's awesome that I get to see the benefits from my actual work, but I also see all the frustration, loneliness, and the absolute toiling I have to do it. And I hope if anybody takes away anything from this is, you know, next time you go to a restaurant, next time you go get your fast food, you know, really think about how essential this service is to our society, and think about how important and what society would look like without our service people and without our essential workers. And I really hope people start realizing that this is the whole point. What good would life be if we couldn't go get like a culinary experience somewhere? That is literally the only thing we have to do in this life is eat. And so if the only thing we have to do becomes boredom or becomes just boilerplate activity, then life is dead. And I really think that since the beginning of time, food has been on the forefront of things getting pushed forward. And I think we can't let up the gas now, and we need to keep going. And I think food is the common denominator between all of us. And it's the only thing that's going to keep this world together. So
when anyone ever thinks we're not the same, look, we all eat the same thing. We eat water. It's just one of these weird things that I'm like, at our fundamental being, we're all the same, no matter which way we look at it. So
yeah, and
cultures, and I agree.
Yeah, all the things that every culture of the world brings. I mean, it's beautiful. I think it's one of the most beautiful things, and it's that nostalgia point, and that's why I started all this, was to chase nostalgia, to chase that dragon. But also, if I can create my own nostalgia, then that's pretty awesome too. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think you're doing it. Sage, I would love to have you back on the show again. Like, I have about 12 more questions that I've asked, and I've already taken up a lot of your time, but I wrote down a bunch. I'd love to have you back on the show anytime you want to.
Let me know.
If you want to use the link and sign back up again, I would love it, because so the audience knows, I think the audience probably has a lot of questions too, so I want to give them a chance to ask the questions as well. So after this, we can talk about it, but I just wanted to let the audience know too, I'm going to have them back on the show. If you guys have other questions, I think it's important, because I think you're finding success in what everyone thinks of. I think the respecting the boundary of who you are as a chef and your creative boundaries and not customizing things is an important thing to your business as well. So I want to talk a lot more about that in general on the next call.
Yeah,
I know
I
the
would love
audience is going to have questions about that. Where can they find you online? Where can they find the location itself? How can they follow, find the food?
So Third Coast, my Instagram, I primarily do a lot of my branding and stuff through Instagram. So Third Coast is Third Coast Dogs PDX. And then I have like a little square site, but that's more, I mean, I have nothing on there. I used to be on DoorDash in the very beginning, but I'm like fundamentally opposed to delivery services. And in the beginning, I was just doing everything by myself, so I couldn't even handle doing delivery. So I kind of just keep my like DoorDash, Uber Eats stuff. Like I'm not my online store is paused permanently on there. I'm pretty much just using them as a free advertising board. And it's funny because I have a lot of people that they type in Third Coast hot dogs, they see it on Uber Eats. They go to Uber Eats, they're like, oh, cool, I can get this delivered. And it just says permanently paused. And then they get off their ass and they come down to the restaurant and get an experience, which is, if I can get anybody to just get off your ass and come have an experience, like that is the most important part to me, is to like come down and, yeah, sometimes food is just maintenance, like putting food in your body, but yeah, come down to the shop. The shop is at 7th and Division, Southeast Division in Portland, Oregon, in the kind of downtown industrial district on the east side. Yeah, it's 7th and Division. It's in a motorcycle shop. The whole space is called Biker Bar. But yeah, you'll see my Gray Horse Saloon there. And inside of the bar, Gray Horse Saloon, is Third Coast hot dogs. And that was really important for me, was to keep that pop-up feel, that kind of impermanent, do it yourself, scrappy, kind of punk rock ethos of just like, hey, this is just me, one dude doing this. And yeah, you can follow the bar at Gray Horse Saloon on Instagram. Yeah, it's Third Coast Dogs PDX. I post all my specials on there. I post hot dog memes. It's pretty funny. And yeah, I primarily do all my stuff through Instagram, at least that kind of branding wise. But yeah, you can find me on my Square site. But yeah, 7th and Division in Portland, Oregon. That's where I'm at.
Well, Sage, I appreciate your time big time.
Yeah, I
Amazing
appreciate you,
episode.
Justin. Yeah. Yeah. And anytime you want to, we can talk anytime. This was really a lot of fun for me. So
Yeah, I love it.
you asked some really great questions, and yeah, it was just like a really good flowing conversation.
I appreciate it. And everyone in the audience, share, follow, again, Third Coast Dogs PDX, as well as the Gray Horse Saloon. They're followed. I'll have everything in the episode notes. What you're doing with hot dogs, I think, and what you've done with your business on top of it, I think it is really important. And I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. Definitely rooting for you. Anyone in the audience, again, share the content, like the episode. If you think it might help someone, share it with someone. There's a lot of entrepreneurs out there around the world who just need a little push. No, they're not alone out there. So this is the space or the place to do it. And I thank you guys for all the support. I thank you guys for all we're doing. And again, episodes are always on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays right now, but I do release episodes intermittently in between as we're starting to stock up more and more episodes so we don't get too far ahead in the future. So it's all out there for you guys. Again, transcripts for every episode are on iTunes and Podbean. You can find the transcripts there. And anything else you guys want, educational stuff, information, it's always at Gorilla Brave. We've started populating that. Free sources, free groups, free fellowship, all there for everyone as well. So please continue to look there if that's something you're interested in. But I appreciate everyone else supporting the episodes, sharing them. Our downloads are going up, our views are going up, the play counts are going up. That's all because of you guys. So I appreciate it. And with that being said, we're out.